Hey there, have you ever wondered what the root of trauma is in your life and how to heal it? Well, I'm going to share with you a story today about how I found out what the roots of trauma were in my life and how I was able to pull out those roots, heal them, and move on to have a happier, healthier, wholesome life that has worked for me. For me, I was in a period of time in my life. I had a lot of challenges in my life. I moved a lot. I realized later that I was living in a state of fight or flight most of my life. And what happened is at a certain period, it was about a 10-year period where I just I knew something was wrong with me and I didn't know what it was. And I was able to look at people around me and say, you know, I have intelligence, I have a good personality, I can meet and connect with people easily. I'm really great in my career of training and coaching and designing training. And yet, I had so many ups and downs in my life, relationships, financially, so many challenges. And what I kept asking was, what what's wrong with me? Like, why do I have all these challenges? And I look at other people who have some of the same qualities I do, some of my friends, and their lives are a lot more stable, seem to be a lot more fulfilled, happy, grounded, things like that. So I started asking, what is going on with me? What is wrong? And I pursued everything. I did counseling, I did coaching, I did Christian counseling and healing, and I took classes, personal growth. I mean, you name it, I did everything. I went the psychologist route, got diagnosed with ADD, took some Adderall for that, but nothing ever got to the root of why I was really struggling in my life. And then one day I had gotten a job and I thought this was going to be the job I would have the rest of my career. And after 6 months, the president and the HR guy called me into the office and they said, Patrice, this is not going to be a good day. Today is your last day. And they proceeded to tell me of things that I had said and done that were the reason for their abrupt decision. And it was really surreal because I really did not remember some of the things they were talking about. And I was like, huh. They're like, yeah, you said such and such to so and so. And I was like, no, I didn't. And they're like, oh yes, you did. So anyway, I got laid off this job that was my dream job, just like that. And literally for 3 months, I was in a state of PTSD. I was traumatized. All I could do was think about what happened. I was having nightmares about what happened. Every time I saw any friends, I was telling them about what happened. It literally had grabbed a hold of my mind and traumatized me in such a deep way that it was affecting all of my life. 3 months went by, and I ended up deciding to go see the Deckers, who were people that I had gone through ministry training with. And I think of them as like wise sages. And I thought, well, maybe they can help me. So I went and stayed with them. I drove from Spokane to Bend, Oregon, and I stayed with them. And immediately when I walked in, I was talking about what happened, of course. We were catching up on events. And basically, she said, oh, Patrice, have you ever heard about the healing codes? And I was like, no. And she goes, oh, it's these hand movements you do around your face. And God just really downloaded this philosophy, this process to this guy named Alex Lloyd. And he wrote a book about it called The Healing Codes. And she said, John and I have been doing it, and it's fascinating. She said, we've been accessing memories from when we were in grade school, and they were like in their late 70s. And she said it was the most amazing thing. And I thought, maybe that would help me. Well, I did like a lot of us do when somebody gives you a suggestion and you think it's a good idea. I did nothing about it. And then about a month went by, and these people from Bend that were part of the ministry training, they came to see me in Spokane. And we had a wonderful time watching, going and looking at eagles, going to the healing rooms. Oh, yeah, I did a lot of going to the healing rooms for inner healing, took deliverance training. Those are more of the things that I did. And at the end, they're getting ready to leave. And the subject came up about my job and losing my job. And she said, Patrice, have you ever heard of the healing codes? And I was like, oh, yeah, John and Sonia told me about that. So she ended up sending me her book, and she went home with one of mine. So we did a book trade. And I ended up getting my hands on the Healing Code book. Wow, what a life changer. I read the book in like just a couple of days because, of course, I was laid off and I didn't have a job and I had a lot of time. And I was very motivated to get to the root of what was going on in my life and why I continually had so many struggles. Well, I started reading that book and I found out that the root cause of trauma is cellular memory stress at a cellular level. And when you have experiences in your life that are traumatic, it sets up a pattern of vibrational frequency in your body. And unless you heal it, that vibrational frequency is always going to be there. And it's always going to cause you stress. Now, this isn't like circumstantial stress, like, for instance, you wrecked your car, or you lost your cell phone, or something like that that causes you stress, or a friend dies, that's even worse, or you find out you've got some disease. These are all circumstantial stress, and these are impactful, but trauma stress is at a much deeper level. It's at a deep physiological level, and it really runs in the background of your whole life. And Alex Lloyd went on to say that he thinks the root of most diseases are due to cellular stress and even pain. Even when people have chronic pain, it can be a result of cellular stress and trauma deep in the past that has not been healed. Well, this really resonated with me. And interestingly enough, I taught myself how to do these healing codes, which are these hand movements around your face. And it only took like 5 to 6 minutes. Well, of course, the most traumatic thing that was going on in my life was this job layoff. So I started going to work on this memory. And there's a process that you do, and I'll teach you about it later in one of my videos. And you start out by naming the emotion that you're feeling, and then you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. Well, mine was a 10. Losing my job and just the trauma and the shock from it was still at a 10 after 3 months. Okay, so I went ahead and I did a healing code session. And afterwards, they say you're supposed to rate it. Well, you just let whatever number pops into your head. And it went down to a 7. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then the next day I did another healing code, and it went down to I think it was a 3 or a 4. And then the next day, or maybe a couple of days later, I went ahead and did another healing code. And this time it went down to a 1. Okay. And the thing that's important to know is the goal is to get it to a 0 or a 1. And do you know, from that moment on, I never thought about that and had the trauma feeling connected to it. Of course, I thought about it and I've talked about it as part of my life story, but I never felt the trauma and the stress of it ever again. I was like, are you kidding me? 3 6-minute sessions of these healing codes, and the trauma was totally gone. I said, okay, I am onto something. So, what I ended up doing, I spent a whole year of going through these healing codes and getting into an advanced level of training. And later, I'll tell you the story about how my life literally transformed from doing the healing code so intently and using an energy healing method to get to the root of my trauma and get set free. So, thank you for listening. I'm excited to share more of my journey and more of how I got healed from trauma from my past. So I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.